U.S. government. It's a big deal. We're going to do that here. And we work for Sun Metro. And there's not a lot of jobs in this region. It's all about this. Huh?
I'm going to call the first meeting to order, which is a special board meeting of the Board of Trustees. The time is 5:49. The date is November 19th. Adrian.
Ms. Lawrence?
Present.
Ms. Borrego?
Here.
Ms. Mendoza?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Present.
Mr. Cimental? Here. Ms. Zuniga?
Here.
I will take this to the first item.
That's going to be item number 2, open forum. Any person wishing to address the board during the period reserved for public comment at a board meeting must sign up to be heard in accordance with district policy local. Each participant will be limited to 3 minutes to make comments to the board. The board is not permitted to discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on the agenda for tonight's meeting. For further assistance on these policies, please contact the superintendent's administrative assistant. And Mr. President, we do not have any members signed up for tonight's.
That will take us to the that will take us to the next item.
Item number 3, Board of Trustees business. 3A, discussion and possible action to canvass the November 5th, 2024 election results and consider approval of the order and certificate of canvassing of the election results. Presenter, Steve Blanco.
Thank you, Board President Rodriguez, Dr. Galvez, members of the board. Steve Blanco, new counsel to the district. It's my pleasure tonight to present to you, you should have a very good package, in order to canvass the returns and the election results from the November 5th, 2024 election. After approving the order, when I go through it, we'll also have a certificate order that will be approved by the board. We'll go over the order of canvassing the results first. This is the official step that's required by the Board of Trustees to accept the election returns, and which will declare elected the four positions who are up for election at the November 5th, 2024 election. So the Kennington Independent School District Board of Trustees duly authorized the election to be held in the school district on Tuesday, November 5, 2024, for the purpose of submitting to qualified voters the school district an election for members of the Board of Trustees for 4 at-large positions. The election for the 4 at-large positions was conducted by the county elections administrator, who has duly made the return of the results, and the returns have been delivered to the Board of Trustees, and we'll go over them now. The Board of Trustees, after reviewing this and asking for finding, approving the order and declaring the election results. These are the returns that were found and delivered to us by the county elections administrator. For the 4 at-large positions in the Kennington Independent School District Board of Trustees, Armando Rodriguez received 4,043 votes. Lily Maldonado received 3,857 votes. Jess Salgado Ramos received 2,352 votes. Lori Searles received 2,771 votes. Sergio Martinez received 2,843 votes. David Intel received 2,285 votes. Jimmy Loftus received 2,465 votes. Blanca Trout received 2,859 votes. Bobby Santal received 1,792 votes. And Carolina Ortega received 3,559 votes. As a result of the election, based on the returns that I just given to you, the Board of Trustees needs to approve the election results for the 4 at-large positions. Those 4 at-large positions that are elected to the Board of Trustees are Armando Rodriguez, 4,043 votes. Lily Maldonado with 3,857 votes. Blanca Trout with 2,859 votes. And Carolina Ortega with 3,559 votes. At this time, I ask the board to approve the motion accepting the canvass and declaring the election results as I've read them off to you.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Mendoza. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Borrego. If there's no discussion, then Adrian, can you pull the board?
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Ms. Borrego,
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Cimental,
Yes.
and Ms. Zuniga.
Yes.
In favor, motion passes.
Thank you. There's one additional item. It is a certificate for the order. It's to prove and to establish that the order that we just approved was completed tonight. I might ask the board to approve the signature of the certificate for the order canvassing the results of the general trustee election from November 5th, 2024. It will reflect that Ms. Trout was not present for the meeting tonight, but all other members were present. Need a motion to approve the certificate for the order canvassing the results.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Mendoza. Do I have a second?
I have a second.
Second by Ms. Barnes. If there's no discussion or questions, and Adrian, can you pull the board?
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Ms. Borrego,
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Cimental,
Yes.
Ms. Zuniga.
Yes.
In favor, motion passes.
Thank you. We'll have these documents signed now. We'll take a short break before we start the next meeting. The next meeting we will take action. I believe we have our judge here to swear and the newly elected members to take their seats and dies.
And at this time, I'll adjourn the meeting with everybody's consent.
Time is 5:56 p.m. Ms. Borrego,
Here.
Ms. Mendoza,
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Present.
Mr. Cimental,
Here.
Ms. Zuniga.
Here.
And at this time, if it's okay with the board, I would like to sing happy birthday to Dr. Galadis. Who wants to lead it?
Martha.
Martha.
To you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Dr. Galadis. Happy birthday to you.
With that, I will take us to the next item.
Item 1B, Pledge of Allegiance.
And at this time,
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to the United States, one state, one God, one indivisible.
thank you. I'll take us to
Item number 2, Board Honors. 2A, District Recognition of Outgoing Trustees. Presenter, Ms. Cristina Rodriguez.
Good evening, President Rodriguez, members of the board, and Dr. Galadis. Could you please join me in the front of the dais to begin this month's presentation? Tonight, as we begin a new era of leadership in the Canudillo ISD Board of Trustees, we celebrate the legacy of two people who have made the tremendous contributions to the improvement of the quality of education for students right here in the Canudillo Independent School District. As we say goodbye to outgoing trustees Patricia Patsy Mendoza and Robert Bobby Cimental, we want to acknowledge their work and commitment to the children of our community. Bobby Cimental is a Canudillo boy through and through. He grew up in the borderland community where he still resides and attended CISD schools. He is a Canudillo High graduate where he was a star athlete and has remained an advocate for the district ever since. He served on several committees before being appointed to the board in 2022. During his tenure, he played a critical role in the passage of the bond. A father of a CISD graduate and the grandfather of a current Garcia student, Bobby is vested in Canudillo because Canudillo is family. Please help us thank trustee Robert Bobby Cimental. What can we say about trustee Patsy Mendoza? She is, in a simple term, Canudillo's grandma. A three-term trustee, Ms. Patsy embodies everything that is great about Canudillo and Canudillo ISD. A voice of reason on the board, Ms. Mendoza has helped guide the board and the district through some of its most challenging times with calm and resolve. This matters greatly to her since Canontillo has been her home since childhood, and CISD has been her second home from the moment she stepped into elementary school until now. A proud Canontillo alumna, she began her long career as a CISD employee right after high school and spent decades seeing the district grow to what it is today before retiring in 2009. After retirement, she began the next chapter of her service to Canontillo, that of a trustee with stints as secretary and president. For 3 terms, she has led with kindness, knowledge, and determination. Having been a critical party of the bond programs that are transforming CISD into a premier suburban school district, Canontillo owes Ms. Patsy a debt of gratitude, and we're here to try to begin to pay that debt. Please help us say thank you to Trustee Patsy Mendoza. Thank you, Ms. Patsy, for your dedication and service.
One, two, don't hide, Dr. D. There you go. One, two, three. Perfect. Family.
Family.
Any other family? One, two, three. Just one more. All right, thank you.
Board President Rodriguez, members of the board, and Dr. Galaviz, this concludes this month's board honors.
Could we say a few words?
Sure can.
I just wanted to tell you all what an honor it has been to serve this district. I believe in it. I know that this next chapter in the districts is going to be phenomenal. I don't think you'll be able to recognize Canontillo in a matter of a couple of years. And it's been a wonderful ride for me to serve. I want to wish the school board my very best wishes. And I especially want to thank Pedro Galaviz and his staff. They have been amazing in guiding us and suggesting the different programs and things that have been implemented, kicking and screaming. I just want to welcome the new board members to the board, and I wish you all the very best. Viva Canontillo!
Wow, that was great. I just would love to echo everything you said, Patsy. Patsy is a true Canontilloan, and like she said, this is our district. This is the best district in the world. And again, I want to thank all our staff. The staff makes us look great. And I said it all along, you are the best staff in the whole district, the whole region, maybe the whole state. And I need you guys to keep doing the work. I'm gonna be watching, don't worry. And to the new board, congratulations. It's a great honor, and I hope you take this seriously, and I know you will, and you're gonna do a great job. Thank you. And thanks, everybody. Thank Come on up, board. Not yet.
Thank you to both the Antelope graduates and your heart that you have poured in our community. We really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you all watch us in the sidelines and see these beautiful buildings being built. So.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
The next item.
Item number 3, open forum. Any person wishing to address the board during the period reserved for public comment at a board meeting must sign up to be heard in accordance with district policy BED local. Each participant will be limited to 3 minutes to make comments to the board. The board is not permitted to discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on the agenda for tonight's meeting. For further information on these policies, contact the superintendent's administrative assistant. And Mr. President, we do not have any community members signed up for tonight.
That will take us to the next item.
Item number 4, Board of Trustees business. 4A, discussion and possible action to obtain statement of office and conduct the oath of office for newly elected trustees and issue certificates of election for the newly elected trustees. Presenters, Ms. Cristina Rodriguez and Judge Enriquez.
I believe that will take us to, I'll head down there as well.
Buenas noches, good evening, everyone. My name is Humberto Enriquez, Justice of the Peace Precinct 7. I'm here to administer the oath of office to the newly elected board members and the ones that are remaining, or the one that's coming on board as well. Before we get into that business, I'd like to just say a couple words. Patsy Mendoza and her family have been pillars of the Canopio community for years. I can't say enough about Patsy, her mama, her dad, her sister, everyone. You know, Patsy saw me grow up along with Shirley, her sister. Shirley, her sister, for you know, through middle school, high school, and then after that. We owe her a debt of gratitude for everything that she's done in the last 25, 30 years. She used to be our lead or hookup at the superintendent's office when I was a high school kid. And whenever we were in any kind of trouble, the first person we went to was, first to Patsy's dad, and then to Patsy. He somehow seemed to be able to iron things out for us. And, you know, back then we didn't get into any real trouble, but it felt like real trouble to us. As far as Bobby's concerned, yeah, he was a standout athlete, but he was probably the only guy over 5'8" in Canopio High School. So the bar was set a little low, but that's okay. He's still, oh Jesus, he's here. You know, I've known Bobby since high school and out of high school and college, and they're just good, solid people. His brother practices with me. You know, I've kept up with the family for years, and I can't say enough about Bobby as well. We've got good people coming on board. It's a new day for Canopio ISD, and we look forward to the great things that these folks are going to do. But at the same time, let's reflect a little bit about on what Ms. Mendoza, what Bobby had done in their years of service. please don't detract from it, add to it, add to the good work that we've done. And I'm sure if you keep focused, if you're in it for the right reasons, which I'm sure you are, you'll do fine. Anyway, if I get the three folks that are coming up, I don't mind those up here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are happy tonight to welcome two new faces to the Canutillo ISD Board of Trustees and to welcome back a familiar face for an amazing sixth term on the board. The Board of Trustees at an earlier meeting canvassed the results of the November 5th Canutillo ISD Board of Trustees election, in which 4 candidates received enough votes to be elected to serve. Those candidates are Armando Mando Rodriguez, Lilia Lily Maldonado, Carolina Ortega, and Blanca Trout. Tonight, we will administer the oath of office to 3 of those people. The oath will be administered by the Honorable Judge Humberto Beto Enriquez, who we all just met right now, Justice of the Peace for the County of El Paso, Precinct 7. Judge Enriquez, could you please join us in front of the dais to administer the oaths? Ms. Maldonado, could you please come up?
Repeat after me. I, Lily Maldonado, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of trustee of the state of Texas and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of this state, so help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
Congratulations, Trustee Maldonado. And if you can, your friends that have attended tonight for Ms. Maldonado, please come up for a photo.
Come on, gang.
Welcome, Trustee Maldonado. If you could please join Mr. Jonathan Alvarado on the side as we wait to take a group photo.
I'm sorry.
You could just join Mr. Alvarado right here on the side, and we'll take a group photo when the others have been sworn in. Ms. Ortega, could you please come up?
Ortega,
I, Carolina Ortega,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of trustee.
that I will
Faithfully
faithfully execute the duties of the office of trustee
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will to the best of my ability
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Trustee Ortega. Ms. Ortega, please come up for a photo.
Thank you.
One, two, three.
One more photo. Ms. Ortega, if you could please join Ms. Alvarado on the side. Board President Rodriguez, please come up. If I need you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Armando Mando Rodriguez,
I, Armando Mando Rodriguez,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office of trustee
the duties of the office of trustee
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the constitutions and laws of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Trustee Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez, family and friends, please come up.
Let's just do this. Careful with that button out there.
One, two, three. One, two, three.
As always, my mom would always give me the blessing before I took off it. So.
Could trustees Maldonado and Ortega please join trustee Rodriguez for a photo of the newly elected trustees? Please note that we will take a photo of the entire board after this photo.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Could the rest of the board please join us for a commemorative photo?
Can you get a little closer to each other? There you go. Yeah. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Alright, 1, 2, 3. Alright. Yes, it's okay. We can.
Thank you, Judge Rodriguez, for your help. Trustees Rodriguez, Maldonado, and Ortega, please take your seats on the dais.
Thank you all to all the community members that came out to support their families. We really appreciate you coming out as we go through this journey over the next 4 years. So thank you all. With that, I'll take us to the next item.
Item 4B, to discuss possible vacancy on the Board of Trustees after election results are approved, including acceptance of declination of office from Blanca Trout, if such action is necessary and appropriate. Presenter Steve Blanco.
Thank you, President Rodriguez, Board Member Dr. Ellis. Congratulations to the board members. We had this item posted on the agenda because we knew going into the election that Ms. Trout had resigned her seat on the board. She had indicated at that time that she did not want to continue serving on the board. She did that with a heavy heart. She had a good run of service in the district. But she had some personal issues that she wanted to take care of. So we knew going into the election that she had asked to withdraw from the election. Unfortunately, she did not meet the timing requirements for that, so her name had to appear on the ballot. As it turns out, she received enough votes to be re-elected to the Board of Trustees. So following the election, the administration reached out to Ms. Trout, and Ms. Trout submitted a written letter dated November 12th, 2024, to the district. I'm just going to go ahead and read it so that it's in the record. Dear Canutillo community, I am deeply honored and humbled by the trust you showed in me during the recent November 5 election. Receiving enough votes to serve once more on the Canutillo ISD Board of Trustees is a privilege I do not take lightly. However, it is with a heavy heart that I must respectfully decline this opportunity to take office. As I shared in my letter to the community in October, personal matters have led me to refocus my attention and priorities. After much thought, I've come to the difficult decision to fully concentrate on my family at this time. Serving the families of Canutillo for the past 8 years has been one of the greatest honors of my life. I'm grateful to each of you for allowing me to be part of this incredible journey. Thank you for your faith and support you have shown me over the years. I wish the board, superintendent, and all the dedicated employees of CISD the very best as they continue to work towards making Canutillo ISD the best district in Texas. Heartfelt gratitude that I signed up on the crowd. And she has officially declined the election and the appointment to the office of trustee, which means you have a vacancy. And at this time, we need the board to take action to accept Ms. Trout's declination of the election and her appointment to office, and that is a vacancy on the board for her seat.
Is there a motion by anybody from the board?
I said motion to accept the definition, Ms. Walker Trout and open the vacancy.
I have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. If there's any questions or comments or none? Seeing none, Adrian, can you please pull the board?
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Ms. Borrego,
Yes.
Ms. Maldonado,
Yes.
Ms. Ortega,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Zuniga.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I will take this to Steve if you want to continue.
I'm sure the next item 4C is to discuss your options, possible action to address and fill the vacancy on the board of trustees. If it was necessary, put it that way. We now know that it's necessary because Ms. Trout did decline an office and have a vacancy on the board of trustees. The way the vacancy provisions work for elected school board officials is now that you have a vacant seat, the board has options to fill that seat. One option is to appoint a person to fill the seat. That person is appointed and accepts the appointment, serves until the next board election. Ms. Trout was elected for a 4-year term, but the law requires that because it's an appointed position, if you so appoint somebody, that person has to run for office in the next election, which will be 2 years. The other option is to hold a special election to fill a board vacancy. And that is certainly doable, but it's extremely expensive to be approaching a 6-figure cost for the district to do that. It's rarely done, but it is an option. Those are your two choices. The vacancy has to be filled. It can't remain unfilled because more than a year remains with a term of office. So it's up to the board to decide how you want to go about filling it. I know in the past that the board has appointed people when there are vacancies on the board, and that's up to you guys to decide how you want to use that process.
Is there any questions or not? I would recommend a motion to.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, Dr. Gallagher, I had requested the figure for the election, so we don't have an actual figure of what the special election would cost. It would be more
We
than.
do. Ms. Wise sent Mr. Revelis an email, and I want to say it was somewhere between $50,000 and $90,000, depending on the other number of entities that would be calling for special elections. We don't know that number.
Okay, so if we were by ourselves in that, then it would be in the higher range?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Maldonado.
I make a motion that, since the community voted and you went over the results, that I think it is only right that we go by the next one that came in 5th.
Can you state the name?
The name would be Sergio Martinez, I believe, who came in 5th.
Let me verify that, but I believe it's correct.
Yeah. Is there a second for that? I'll second it.
Can I?
Ms. Maldonado, you're correct. The 5th place individual receiving the next most votes following Ms. Trout was Sergio Martinez with 2,843 votes.
So there's a motion. Did you want to?
A comment
Okay.
on the motion. Previously, we were in this situation 2 years ago, and we held interviews, and I felt like that was the fair way to do it. I think that we need to be consistent on how we do things. If we did interviews last time, and we had the same discussion back and forth, and we decided to have interviews, I think we need to consider to do the same thing for sake of transparency and to move forward.
Mr. President?
Go ahead, Ms. Maldonado.
With all due respect, Ms. Borrego, I feel for the sake of transparency. We went out to ask the committee to elect for positions, which they did so. Unfortunately, Ms. Trout, for her personal reasons, withdrew. So democracy being in place, transparency being in place, the community voted, and I believe that the best thing to do for transparency is to appoint whoever came in 5th.
And I understand where you're coming from. The argument was last time when we had this situation 2 years ago, the argument was that fifth place really isn't fifth place because Ms. Trout took, the votes, and so then that's what they argued, because I wanted to do as a newbie, I wanted to do the exact same thing that you're asking now, and the argument to that was that it wasn't really that, and so we went back and forth whether we should have an election or not, but because Ms. Trout's name took so many of the votes, he might not have come in fifth place if that had not been there. And so that was just the discussion. I just think that we need to be consistent on how we do things. And we had interviews last time, and that's just my thought on that. We can go.
So I can change my motion, maybe not to fifth, but whoever came next with the most amount of votes after Ms. Trout. Because I don't think we're in a position to hold a special election.
No.
We are not. And I think that we're all about transparency. We know what happened last time, and it was the talk of the town about the appointments and the appointed person that got in there. I don't want to go through that again as a newbie, as a community member. I sat here and I listened to everything as a community member out there. And therefore, I think that this is the best. We don't always do things, or this is a new kind of deal like Mr. Judge Enriquez said. We don't have to do things the way we used to. I think we need to do things the way they're supposed to be, the right way. And again, my motion would be to appoint the person who came in next with votes. Whoever was behind Ms. Trout with votes, with the most votes.
And I'll amend the second, but I believe Ms. Catalina have, I believe Ms. Barnes as well.
I agree with Ms. Borrego. I think that kind of like the president was said the last time, that the arguing was going on, and I just think for the community to know that we are doing things for the right reasons, I think we should take interviews.
My concern is, Ms. Maldonado, I completely agree with you. I was sitting where you were sitting and arguing what you were arguing last election, regardless of who was in that spot. I think, though, actually last time would have made much more sense because we knew we were going to have a vacancy regardless. So the next person in line was actually the next person in line. They earned, that number of votes. This time, like Ms. Borrego mentioned, those votes were pulled away because of Ms. Trout's name being there. So we don't actually know whether or not Mr. Martinez, with all due respect, would have been next in line. We don't know that to be the case. And so I agree that I think we should open up to interviews, but I know we have to, of course, take a vote on whatever motion is before the table. But that way, the entire situation is discussed.
Can I ask a question as far as interviews? Interviews from those that place their name on the ballot, or interviews by whoever wants to interview?
So in the past, the last time, and that's all I can refer to, that's all the knowledge that I have, but before it was opened up to the entire community. So people who ran for office on the election and people who didn't. And I don't know if legal or anybody can answer, does it have to be to the entire community?
It could be whatever the next motion is, but if I might have the floor, it's just interesting enough because, Ms. Barnes 2 years ago was asking for the person that came in next in line and now wants to have actual interviews. I'm okay either way, it's up to the board, but the inconsistency and the hypocrisy around it is interesting, but I'm okay with whatever the board wants to do. With that being said, is there any other person? Because what can happen, we would take this vote, there could be a motion for the next person after that, or any type of other motion, or the motion could actually be for interviews. And when we're talking about interviews, we could make that motion dependent on whatever. Is that correct? If we were to open up for interviews, does it have to be open up to the full, or can it be just?
Up to you guys, but you have to take it one step at a time. As well as I did make a motion to move to appoint the next vote getter, which it's 5. It's easiest to do that on the calculation. To appoint that person. I don't know that there was a second. Was there a second to that?
Yeah.
Who made the
I
second?
did.
Okay. So you have a motion and a second. You'll need to vote on that.
Can I make a comment still? So, as far as interviewing, I am against interviewing whoever, because if they wanted to interview and if they wanted to sit on this board, they would have placed their name on the ballot.
Can we vote on this motion and then we can stipulate on the next motion? So if, in other words, we could have that conversation. If this motion passes, then it passes. If it fails, then we could have that conversation.
So the motion is that, that I made was to appoint the person that came in, Sergio Martinez, with 2,843 votes, which was the number next after Ms. Trout's votes. Motion understood?
Right. And that was seconded. So, Adrian, will you pull the board?
Ms. Barnes,
No.
Ms. Borrego,
No.
Ms. Maldonado,
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
No.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Zuniga.
Yes.
You have a tie, so the motion fails. That's one of the issues with having only 6 board members and only 7. So that motion does not pass. So the board is still on the agenda and determine how you want to go about filling the vacancy.
So I'd like to move that we have interviews with only the candidates that ran on the ballot. We don't open it up to the whole community. Because I agree with Ms. Maldonado in the sense that if they wanted to be on the board, they would have run and had to be a part of the election.
So you would make a motion then to authorize administration to take applications only from those individuals who appear on the ballot.
Can we just set up interviews with them?
Not if you want to limit it.
No, in other words, limit it to the individuals. We still have to ask if they want an application.
Yeah, they might not. So
Okay.
you would authorize administration to accept applications only from those individuals who appear on the ballot. You had 10 individuals. 3 of you are here. Ms. Trout doesn't want it, so that's 4. That leaves 6 potential individuals. Some of them might not want to. I don't know. But they would have to submit an application, and the board would interview them and go through that process.
Okay. Is there a second?
But do I understand you correctly? You want to limit it to those people who appear on the ballot?
That's what I understood that Board of Peace from our conversation earlier. Yes, I'm fine either way. It doesn't matter to me. But if that's
There could also be a motion of the second person that was next to me.
no, I don't care either way. To be quite honest with you, like you, I just think we need to be consistent. And we held interviews 2 years ago, and so we need to hold interviews this time around. And so I'm hearing that we would like to just have the candidates. So my motion is that we have interviews with putting out applications to the people that ran on the ballot.
And I would like to second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any questions or?
I still have a concern, because even if you open up to only those candidates that were on the ballot to apply, we're going to be back where we were 2 years ago, as far as the community and transparency. Because who's going to decide on that application? The board. So if it gets approved that the last person who got the minimum amount or the least amount of votes makes it, we're in the same place we were last time. Community is not going to trust us, and they're going to say, where's the transparency? Transparency is a word that everybody says, but it's nothing if there's no action behind it. Like I said, I don't agree with interviewing. I think we have to do the due process, which is next in line of this motion down. So, I mean, if we want to be the talk again of the community, it's on your shoulders. I'm not for it.
And I would say the same. What I would recommend to you is, in regards, well, let's see how this motion goes. Yes. Is there any questions or comments on this motion? Okay. Adrian, will you pull the board?
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Ms. Borrego,
Yes.
Ms. Maldonado,
No.
Ms. Ortega,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
No.
Ms. Zuniga.
No.
So,
It's 3-3 again, so that motion fails.
is there another motion?
My motion is that we interview and we open it up to the entire community.
That's what we just voted.
No.
No. Okay. And there's a motion, is there a second? The motion dies lack of a second. Is there another motion? You could vote for the 6-person, 7-person going in. I mean,
What's the difference if you do that? It's like holding
I
interviews, or I'm sorry, applicants.
I mean, I agree with Ms. Maldonado, and I've said it, and told, I agree that, unfortunately, Ms. Trout is, for her personal reasons, she couldn't be here, and I do, I can side with Ms. Maldonado that we should go to the next person. I don't know if we can do that again, maybe vote again for the same, we can't. Like, vote again for the same motion, we can't.
So the motion that Ms. Maldonado made did not pass, and didn't receive a majority. Whoever voted against that motion at this meeting can bring it back up. But the person who voted for it, unfortunately, cannot.
Yeah.
So one of y'all, and that would indicate that you're changing your vote.
Right.
And that would probably pass Ms. Maldonado's motion. We need to do something tonight.
My-
We have to take action.
My other remark is that we're obligated to the community. The community spoke up, and we have to honor what they said.
I'm sorry, may I also say something?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so, from what I understand, the precedent you guys are talking about, like from a couple years ago, you're worried about the 2,000 or something voters that voted for Ms. Trout, and those votes not being represented, and that's what you're worried about, and that's why you had an issue those years ago. However, I feel that if that's what you're worried about and representing the voters' interests, then interviewing is not going to be the way to do that at all, because the community's opinions aren't going to be included in that. And I feel like there's no way to fully represent those 2,000 that were missed out by Ms. Trout, but I think that appointing the next in line would be the best way to do that. Although it will never be able to be done fully.
Thank you. And that's one of our student advisors. Is there anybody else?
If I may. So my concern is not taking the next person in line. My concern is the precedent that we're setting for how we act as a board. So the last time that was not an option. It was presented and it was shut down. That we always, the answer was we always do interviews. So I also feel like we're going to get kickback from the community for changing that as well, simply because of who the name is. And it doesn't matter who it is, ultimately, that's who is next in line. But it shouldn't matter, regardless of which election it is, who is next in line. That needs to be honored, and it wasn't last time. So I know we're going to get the question of why this time was it different. So I feel like regardless of which way we go, we're going to get that kickback from the community. Just that's my concern, because I'm not necessarily against taking the next person in line. You're right, you're on the next number of votes. But that's my concern, is that it hasn't been done that way, so why is it different this time?
It has not always been done that way. It's been done different ways in regards to it.
Pointed, so
Let me finish real quick, because this was actually election day. We got a resignation right at the election. The other one, we had to wait a couple months, and then we had to wait another couple months to appoint. So there's a difference between what happened. I mean, each situation is different, And at the end of the day, it's up to us to decide if, I mean, we've heard several comments in the past. Do we correct that and do what people were complaining about? Or do we, continue?
If I may, my concern is not the kickback that we're gonna get now. Because the concern was, and the kickback that we got was, how can this be? You're appointing who you want, not who the community wants. And I will say it again, the community, we went out, you spent money on an election, those that were interested put their name in the hat, they went out to vote, the community spoke. So my concern is not the kickback that we are going to receive of why we're doing it different. Because this is how it should have been done, period. And obviously there's no policy, correct? So I suggest, well, I'll bring that up later, I guess. But to avoid this, I guess I'll say, maybe we have to have policy.
So the policy that exists just tracks the state law.
Which is appointing, but it's up to the district how.
Either through appointment or holding a special election. It gives the board that option. I can imagine there would be times somebody resigns and there's time to get somebody on the ballot right before an already scheduled election. We could do it, which is why the option exists. Unfortunately, it doesn't present itself this time.
So you said I cannot resay the motion.
Not you, one of the other members that voted against your proposal could. And that would signify a change in the vote, which would mean that it's likely to pass.
And it's not about me, it's not about who I like, who I don't like, it's about what's right. Again, I keep going back to the community, they voted, they spoke up. And we need to honor that.
If I can, legal, so in that policy, that's legal policy, can we create a local policy from here on out that it is policy?
To say what, that you're always going to interview?
No, that we're going to go with the next person in line if it was after an election. I mean, is that?
Yes, you can. I question the wisdom of doing that.
Okay. All right.
You could create any type of policy. The question is when you have 4 votes, it doesn't matter what the policy is. You could waive policy.
Okay. Well, if we are going to set precedent for how we're going to run things in the future, then I will make a motion to select the name of the next person in line from votes.
Correctly, did you go against that?
I did.
So you have a motion on the floor from Ms. Barnes to offer the appointment to the next person, 5th place vote getter, correct?
Because we have to resolve this tonight, correct?
Do we have a second? Does the second also have to be from somebody that voted? Oh, it could be anyone.
I second.
Is there any discussion or?
Me being new, learning here, I think it's very important that we don't go back and forth the way we elect people on this board. I think it's very important that if we do one thing for one member, then we should do it for all the other members. And I agree, I think we need that policy set in place.
Steve, if I might, because we still have to ask the individual if they're willing to accept it.
Yeah, we'll get to that next. Yeah. We gotta get through the motion first, but yes.
Okay. Adrian, is there any other conversation? Not Adrian?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Borrego?
No.
Ms. Maldonado?
Yes.
Ms. Sotero?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Zuniga?
Yes.
Motion passes.
That'll take us to, I guess. That'll take us to.
Okay, so I
the
just
next process.
Well, yeah, I do want to discuss because this is to cover the process you're going to use. So now you voted to appoint the next vote getter in order, which is Sergio Martinez. The offer has to be made. Okay. He has to say that he wants to accept it, and then at the next meeting that we have, we'll go through the process, assuming he does accept it, of having a statement of the elected officer, you're going to let yourself sign it. He
that,
requires board action, and it's not tonight.
does it require board action, or it requires, I thought once you take a vote on it, you're able to author the oath without,
If we had an agenda item for it.
no, I know, but if he accepts it,
No, we need action on it because.
No, the action is-
Hold on, notice requirements under the Texas Open Meetings Act make it very clear that any action by the board has to be published to the individual public. Nobody knows that Mr. Martinez is going to be appointed tonight. He's here, I'm assuming he'll accept. So he'll accept, and at the next meeting, we'll have an agenda item to let the public know you all have appointed him and he's accepted and we'll go through the process of taking office.
okay. I'll take your legal advice. Pat, are we done with this item then?
Yes.
Okay, that will take us to the next item then. Do we all wanna, well, go ahead.
Item number 4.
I was gonna say that, did anybody wanna take a break to say bye to family? Okay, okay. Mine still waits, I could say bye to you. Okay, next item.
Item 4D, discussion and possible action to address the unexpected closure of Bill Childress Elementary School to include payment of wages to employees affected by the closure that were directed to not report or leave campus prior to the end of the regular workday on Friday, November the 1st, 2024. Presenter Ms. Martha Carrasco.
Board, on September, on November 11th, there was supposed to be a resolution presented to you, but we did not have that resolution ready. Oh, it wasn't, there's miscommunication between administration and our attorney. So the resolution is sent, and I will let's see, elaborate.
Yes, sir.
To do.
Yes, sir. Board President, trustees, congratulations to our new trustees. I'm presenting before you a resolution that we had a health emergency on November 1st over at Bill Childress Elementary. And basically on that day, employees that were able to report to work or that were at work were sent home. This was in coordination with the health department, and we went ahead and did that. So the resolution before you is that we pay those employees that were able to report to work, and so that is why, in order to avoid the gift of public funds, I'm before you this evening for your approval of this resolution.
I have a question. To avoid, because that was my question, the public funds, the use of public funds, how are we doing that? Just by voting?
Yes, well,
For hourly?
there are specific provisions in the resolution that we have drafted. And I apologize for the miscommunication. Ms. Carrasco and I had talked about this and worked on this, but I wasn't able to attend the meeting. I was an accountant, so I didn't know that it didn't make the agenda. I think Trustee Guerrero didn't ask the question whether or not.
Correct, for the hourly.
It can only be done if the board makes particular findings that it serves a district and public purpose to make these payments. And that is specifically found within this resolution, and I'll read it to you. The board concludes the continuing wage payments to all regular employees, contractual and non-contractual, salaried and non-salaried, who suffer a loss of pay or loss of leave due to an emergency closing serves the public purpose of maintaining morale, reducing turnover, and ensuring continuity of staffing when the campus reopens. The closure was through no fault of the employees, and those who reported to work that day expected to work and expected to be paid for their service. They were sent home, and that might result in somebody not being paid if they're an hourly employee or having to use their own personal leave. This is similar to what was approved during the COVID time period, when we were making payments to employees that were idle or off. And the only way you can do it is by having a resolution approved by the board, making that specific finding.
And, Mr. Blanco, it can't come back later because they're hourly. They're not, I was thinking, I came up with the question is that, do they not have to come in like on a Saturday to make up those hours because of the resolution?
Yes, correct. That's an option. I'm not suggesting that this is the only way to do it. You could tell everybody who went home You went home at noon, you have to use a half day of your leave. If you want to get paid at 4, we're just not going to pay you for that half day.
And my concern, and just so it's out there, because I have always been of the school, when this has happened, that the employees have to make up the time. And so I worry about what other employees and what kind of worms this will open in the future. And I know that it was out of their control. I get it. I just want to make sure that we are consistent and fair across the board with that, because there's going to be other times, and then we don't make employees make up that time.
Yeah, that's a staffing issue.
That's correct, and so it depends on the situation. Like I said, the reason we're before you is because we had the health department involved, and that was their recommendation and their course of action. They were cleaning and disinfecting and testing, and so we needed to have our employees removed from the campus so that this could be able to be done. And so this is why they're asking, it was a out of the norm situation. As Mr. Blanco has mentioned, we haven't used this since COVID. And so that is why we're here before you, because it encompassed the whole campus.
I have a question. So I'm understanding that because they were sent home, in order to get paid, they had to use a personal day.
If you don't vote on this or approve this, yes, they will be docked, or it will be from their leave balance. However, if you're in agreement with the resolution before you, then at that point in time, those employees that were able to come to work or reported to work and were sent home, they will be compensated for that day.
So the resolution is saying that because it was out of their hands, they were sent home, they do not have to use their own personal day.
That's correct.
Okay. So how does it differ when it's a weather-related day? When the district is closed, they determine that it's a closure due to weather, and employees don't show up, and we get it in the news. How does that differ? Are the employees docked? Do they have to call in and use a personal day?
Yes. Yeah, the issue you all are struggling with is a real one. It's not something that y'all should take lightly. You're correct. There are other events that happen, but those aren't viewed the same, is all I can say, as this isolated event at the school, where through some strange event where the school had to be disinfected and there was concern about employee health, people were sent home. Some might see that different than a weather delay. Some might not. I don't know. That's up to you all to decide on your own opinions. But weather is not limited to a single site of employment in a single school where the health officials are coming in, disinfecting and saying, hey, get her out of here before they get sick. It was looked at a little bit differently, and they came up with this idea. We talked about it, and I said, yeah, there's only one way you can do it. The board has to pass a resolution and make that finding if there's a reason for it. Otherwise, you're correct. You dock the day, and you tell those that were sent home, use your vacation, your personal time, and if you want your full pay.
So with weather related, Ms. Carrasco, all they had to do was call in that they were not docked, call in an absence, correct? For contract people. I'm not sure about hourly, right? We just needed to report the absence, but we weren't docked. Not from, I understand it's not the same, but we weren't docked from personal leave or pay. I'm not sure how it worked for hourly.
There are certain absences in the system that are set, that you can call in that absence, but it does not impact your leave.
Right. So again, if this resolution passes, it will not dock the employees, and it will not make them use a personal day.
It will not dock the employees that were able to come to work, or that were willing to report to work. There were employees that were ill on that day and that notified their principal prior to calling the emergency. At that point in time, those employees do have to call in their leave.
Yes, yeah, I would think. I mean, that's common sense, right? But what I'm saying, if I approve this resolution, then it's saying that those that were able to show up and did show up and they were sent home will not get docked pay and will not have to use a personal day.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Just, and, from my understanding, and I would hope next time there's an agenda item that it's, properly, we posted it, but the backup should have been properly, done. My concern was, at that time, was the fact that our hourly employees, taking a half day from them is possibly a lot more severe to certain employees versus others, but that was a concern that I saw in making sure that we acted at the last meeting. Whatever the will of the board is, if they want to make a motion to approve the resolution, we could vote on that, and if there's not a motion, then we wouldn't have to vote.
I have a couple. I was against this from the beginning for many reasons. Why? It was one school, not tons of hourly employees. Why were they not given the option to come here to central office to work? Why didn't we do something so we wouldn't find ourselves in this situation? Number one, I do have a problem. It concerns me that even though you say it's not gift of public funds because we're going to pass a resolution, I don't agree with that. I think that it's important that we see the big picture on here is what was our planning on that. And I get it with salary employees. You're fine. You can send them home to work from their house. The teachers, do whatever you need to do at home. But hourly employees for, 20 years that I was in administration, on snow days, on early days, when they even let us out for Thanksgiving early or Christmas, hourly employees either had to use some of their comp time, and Steve, you know what I'm talking about, or they had to make it up one way or the other. You can't give that time. So that's the problem I have with the resolution is that did we give those hourly employees that opportunity? Hey, things are bad at Alderete, come to the neighboring school, come to central office, whatever.
Ms. Borrego, the issue here was that at the point that the health department came in, they were not sure if it was a virus, if it was something. So those people that were at Bill Childress, we were trying to isolate them from the rest of the campuses. So we didn't know if it was something that was contagious or not. And so at that point, that was a decision that if you were working at Bill Childress, then it was better for you to go home. Like I said, they were in there. There were a lot of questions that we couldn't answer because we didn't know. And so we were scrambling to get answers early morning. And so this was the best decision with the information that we had at the time.
So they were sick.
We didn't know.
We didn't know.
The district didn't know.
But it goes back to they were sick.
Well, they were employees that were.
Dr. Galavis was next, and then
Yes.
if you please if you want to speak, just let me know. And then I'll go. So I have Dr. Galavis and Ms. Maldonado next.
I just want to echo Mr. Carrasco's point is that because there was a virus, the health department, we didn't know who was infected or not, because some of those people went home and they were sick on the weekend. So we wanted to contain it best that we could, but felt that was the optimal option at the time.
Okay. Ms. Maldonado.
So I'm looking at the resolution and I'm a little confused because I asked you to restate and you said that if I was available to work and I showed up and I was sent home, I would not be docked or I would not have to use my leave of absence. Correct? But yet it says, whereas the board determines, so if you could please indulge me and explain. The board determines that employees who are instructed not to report to work, but were otherwise available, not sick, and scheduled to work may suffer a loss of pay or the reduction of 1 day from their leave of balances if the campus is closed. That goes against what you are confirming with me verbally, no? So it says, if I'm available to work, but I'm told not to go to work, may suffer a loss of pay or the reduction of 1 day from their leave balances if the campus is closed. Explain that to me, please.
Sure. So the idea is that anybody at Bill Childress who, I don't know what their schedules are. Somebody might report to work at 10, somebody might report to work at 8. Whenever the campus was closed, they were either sent home, you can't be here anymore, go home. Or somebody was on their way in and said, no, you can't come in, you guys stay home. It's only those people who were available and able to work who were not allowed to by the district because of the closure of Bill Childress. That's it. Only those folks. And those people who are affected by this through an idea being no fault of their own are going to be paid. They're not going to be docked, and they're not going to have to use the leave day.
But why does it say may suffer a loss of pay?
Oh, because if they were not otherwise compensated by this, they're going to lose pay. Yeah. So it's if you don't do this, they are going to lose pay. So because if you don't pass the resolution and you don't do this, they will suffer the loss of pay. They may, but to Ms. Borrego's point, we're not. When we talked about this, we said, how is there a way to make these people whole? Ms. Rodriguez's point, you're going to affect the hourly wage workers the most. Is there a way to compensate them without the gift of public funds being an issue? This is the only way to do it. If the board is not inclined to do this for whatever reason, you don't have to, but all those folks who didn't work are going to either have to report an absence and use their leave to get full pay, or they're going to be docked.
Why can't they have a makeup day? Like come on in and give them the option to come in on a Saturday, because it's not fair to them either that they don't have the opportunity to make up the day or use comp time or whatever.
But using comp time, that's using their time anyway.
Yeah, but some opt for that, they don't wanna come in on a Saturday, because we did that all the time.
Is there any other questions or concerns? If not, can I get a motion or?
Do you want me to answer the question? That's an option.
Yes.
Well, that is an option.
Of course it's an option, yeah, you could.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution? If not, the motion dies. Sorry, go.
And again, if the resolution passes, those that were available for work but did not show up will not lose a day's wages and will not have to use their personal leave for that day and will not have to make it up according to this resolution.
That's correct, and I believe the principal has the names of those people that called prior or advised her before 7 a.m. That they were not coming, and so those are the ones that would have to call in leave, but then, like I said, the principal has their names. And
do we know how many it affects that that did not call in, that showed up?
That did not, I can tell you that when I asked her how many had called in, I think there were between 12 and 15. So those people will have to call in their leave. Everybody else will then get compensated if this is approved.
Then I make a motion that we go ahead and approve the resolution of the board regarding wage payments during district health emergency closures of Bill Childress Elementary School.
Here's a motion. Is there a second?
I would like to second that.
Sorry. There's a motion by Ms. Maldonado and a second by Ms. Zuniga. If there's no other comments, Adrian, can we pull the board?
Ms. Barnes.
Yes.
Ms. Borrego.
No.
Ms. Maldonado.
Yes.
Ms. Ortega.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Zuniga.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. That will take us to the next item.
Item 4E. Discussion and possible action to consider selection of members for El Paso Central Appraisal District Board of Directors and approve resolution to record and cast vote and ballot for Cantillo ASD. Presenter Armando Rodriguez.
Mr. Coronado is here. If anybody, if there's a motion or if you want to talk first.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, Dr. Galaviz, the student advisors, staff. Thank you very much for letting me address the board. This is a new procedure that the legislature has put in place with respect to the appointment of members on the board of the Central Appraisal District. There used to be 9 members that were appointed by all the taxing entities. That has changed effective this year. The legislature saw it that they wanted 3 of those 9 board members to be elected at large by the entire county. You know, for whatever reason, I think there's issues with that. We're trying to change that because it could be even 3 persons from the same household, technically, that could run. So one of the things that I want to advocate is really to try to see if we can, if they want representation from the county, I think they should probably set it up in districts so that areas are actually represented by a vote of the entire community and open it up that way. That is not the case right now. The case right now is that, like I said, even 3 adults from the same household could apply for those 3 positions and all 3 could get elected. The other issue on the new law is that y'all used to appoint, you and 2 other taxing entities used to be able to appoint 1 member. Because 3 of those members are now at large, you no longer have that option. But the new way of doing it is there's those 3 elected board members, and then 1 the tax assessor collector now sits on the board. The problem in our county is that the tax assessor does not collect taxes in this county. It's by conglomerate of the taxing entities that the city of El Paso is doing. So we have an issue there. And that's because, you know, the legislature did not take the differences respecting all counties and the way that these members were elected and apportioned. And of course, all the taxing entities would appoint the rest of the board depending, you know, on how many, you know, it used to be that El Paso, the city of El Paso would get 2 appointments. El Paso ISD would get 1. Bernardillo, Benton, and Anthony would get 1 between the 3 of them. Now, no longer, those smaller entities no longer have that option. Now what has happened is all of the taxing entities get assigned a number of votes, and then people get nominated to run for those board positions, which are actually 5 positions only. So instead of 9, all the taxing entities now get to appoint only 5. And by matter of the number of votes that each taxing entity gets, for sure, the city of El Paso gets 2, El Paso ISD gets 1, and both Socorro and Isleta, because they're the 2 next biggest taxing entities, they basically pulled their votes together and they chose somebody. So now that's 4. There's 1 position left, and that's the one that I'm asking you for your votes. So that's between the rest of the taxing entities, besides all those 5 largest taxing entities. Now, all the rest of the smaller entities get to appoint 1 person.
So how do I make the motion?
You could make the motion to allot all of the votes that Bernardillo has for me or for whoever you want. I'm asking for your support. There's some things that we can do still that I think the legislature needs to change with respect to those 3 members that are voted at large. I think if we don't request our legislature to change that those people that at least have run at large, that they be, number 1, either in districts, and number 2, that we don't have runoffs. That if you have more than 2 people running for each of those positions, whoever gets the maximum number of votes automatically gets in. Because otherwise, we'd have to have a runoff, and guess who pays for it?
We do.
All of us.
Yeah.
The legislature did not allow funds to run these elections. These elections cost us money for those 3 members, and they're county-wide, so they're expensive. It's not limited to Bernardillo, it's not limited to each of the taxing entities. Those 3 positions are run at large, and it's the entire cost of a county election to have those.
So are we nominating you in this?
I've already been nominated?
Yeah.
Oh, that was the earlier meeting, right?
That was the earlier meeting.
Let me, just real quick, previously we nominated Mr. Coronado. Now the second process is getting the round of votes throughout the rest of the county. I did want to make sure if there was not any of the other candidates that also.
I think the only other candidate that's in the running is Mr. Miller. And I
That
don't.
he's not present, right? I just wanted to make sure we give anybody the opportunity. With that.
Before you make the motion,
Go ahead.
I'm a freshman. What are the responsibilities of these board of directors?
Okay, the board of directors,
For the El Paso
Central
Appraisal?
Yeah, number one, we hire and fire the chief appraiser. Okay? We also set the budget for the Central Appraisal District. Now, under the new law, we also get to hire and fire the ARB board members. And those are people that we hire to make sure that they sit on panels of threes. Anytime that a taxpayer protests the value of their property, their home, their personal property, whatever it may be, if they're not happy with what the valuation is, they can go see somebody at the Central Appraisal District. They're not happy with that. They request a hearing in front of the ARB, and there's 3-member panels, and those are run during the entire summer. So we hire these individuals. It used to be that they were appointed by the presiding judge of the county. Now, the new law is that the board of directors actually hires all of these individuals. We just did interviews of 45 people. We hired 22 of them, and we had 8 that were alternates. One of the things that was never part of this hiring process or the ARB members, and it's something that I promoted, and that was to have a code of conduct for these ARB members. We never had that. We're very limited by the legislature and how we run things, but that's one thing that they never defined. So now I propose we define it locally. And now we have a code of conduct for each of these ARB members, and we just went through interviews of these individuals. We had 2 full days that we interviewed. We already did the hiring. We're now just in the process of checking, their background and make sure that they're completely eligible, and then we'll make them the offer. But that's one of the things that I propose, because I don't think statewide yet. Nobody's ever done that.
Well, Mr. Coronado, I want to say thank you for volunteering to do this, because I think if I've heard griping and complaining, it's been of our community members that go and in front of the board, and whatever they say, there's nothing that can be done. So I like that process.
Well, and what we've heard is some individuals that were on the ARB, for example, weren't paying attention to the taxpayer or their representative. Yes. Or issues with respect to courtesy. That's why I instituted this code of conduct. We've run it for our attorneys and approved. Like I said, I don't think anybody else in the state is doing this, because the legislature did not define it. We're limited on how we fire people, but now we have that control. And I think it's very important that any taxpayer or the representative that goes up in front should be treated with respect, with dignity, with courtesy. And one of the things we find out since I've been on the board is that a lot of people that show up don't have a lot of knowledge of the process. That's one of the other things that I think we need to do. And I didn't necessarily want to serve on the board when I got on the county. I got appointed, but now that I see it, I think it's positive, because I think we're really making sure that our community, any taxpayer that goes up in front of them, should be treated with the utmost courtesy. They should be paid attention to, and it should be unbiased, and they should give a fair decision. Because I do not want to see any taxpayer go away and feel that they were mistreated, or they were not listened to, or that they were not taken into consideration of what evidence they provided. And one of the ways is that we have control over our ARB members now is under the new law. That's one good thing they did, is that they allowed the board now to hire them. And now that I propose a code of conduct, we have that.
Okay, so how do I make the motion?
Legal, the motion.
How do I make the motion? To allocate all of our votes to Mr. Coronado?
Yes.
Okay, I move that we allocate all of our votes to Mr. Coronado.
Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? No, if not, Adrian, can you pull the board?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Borrego?
Yes.
Ms. Maldonado?
Yes.
Ms. Ortega?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Zuniga?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Honorable Board. I wish all of you great. You know that my my heart and my taxes are always with Geneseo.
Thank you, Commissioner and Board Member. Yes. That will take us to the next item.
Mic check, check, test the mic.
Yeah.
Check.
It's been.
Test.
ABC, put it right. I just got it on there.
It's also like 15 years long.
Seems to be working okay. Whoever's coming up next, speak up loudly, please.
That will take us to the next item.
Item number 5, public hearing on the application of Vinton Steel LLC, controller application number J0004 for tax incentive agreement to Center OKC LLC.
Good evening, I'm Kathy Mathias with Moat Casey, and we were your financial consultants on the Vinton Steel application. Vinton Steel submitted an application to the comptroller, and the comptroller deemed that application complete October the 3rd. The application specified that they were going to build a manufacturing facility that would decarbonize Vinton steel production by upgrading an existing facility with new state-of-the-art. And they were asking the board to grant a value limitation incentive, which basically meant for M&O purposes, they would their valuation would be a limited amount. It would not be at full value for M&O. So they did submit. They went to it was submitted to the comptroller, which was the process for the JETI application. The minimum required investment for the Vinton Steel was $200 million, and that was based on the county population. Their total investment, they said, would be about $230 million, or $230 million. They were required to create 75 jobs with an average annual wage of $76,534. They were going to commence construction 2025. During the construction period, there would be no M&O taxes collected on that construction value, whatever the appraisal district sets it at each year. The incentive would start in 2028 for 10 years for M&O only, and it would be 50% of the market value, which would be set by the appraisal district. It is fully taxed for INS, so for INS purposes, it's treated just like regular property. They have to maintain a 3-year viable presence after the limitation expires. So after that 10 years, they have to maintain. The agreement's going to run for 3 additional years. They said they would have a peak project value of about $159.8 million in the first year of the limitation, which would be 2028. That means you would tax your INS on that full value, and the M&O would be 50% of whatever the market value would be. Again, the company had to submit project values for each year of the agreement, but the appraisal district, that's just kind of like what they estimated they would be, but the appraisal district is the one who would set those every year. We did a financial analysis for the district, and the ones that we had done, we've done others, that there's no financial harm to school districts by entering into these because of how the equalized school finance system works. You would basically, you get more taxes, you get less state aid, but you're held neutral, right? Unless you have more kids or you get more money per kid from the state. So if everything stays the same in school finance today, you would not be financially harmed. You wouldn't gain anything, but you wouldn't be hurt either. So that's the good news. M&O taxes over the life of the agreement, that what you would collect would be $9.4 million. That would be treated like regular taxes. That would be on the limited value, and once the limitation expires, it goes back on at full value for M&O. INS taxes would be about $8.1 million. Of course, that's based on your tax rates today. Your tax rates will be different by the time this starts going. The comptroller had to issue then a recommendation, or a positive or a negative recommendation. They issued that on October the 23rd. And their criteria for that was it was a positive recommendation. So they approved the project to be get a value limitation. And they based that on that Vinton Steel was an eligible applicant, that the project is an eligible project based on the statute of what kinds of projects could qualify for this. The project will generate state or local tax revenue over 20 years in an amount that would offset the loss of tax revenue that you would give up for those 10 years. So over the 20 years, it's going to generate enough tax revenue to make up for the fact that you're not collecting M&O taxes for those 10 years. on a piece of the project value. The agreement plays a pivotal role in a competitive site selection and is a compelling factor in that without the agreement, they would not be making the investment in the state of Texas. That was a huge requirement in the new statute that the comptroller was they are very detail oriented on proving that that is a compelling factor. And the fifth thing, which did not apply to this project because it is not in an opportunity zone, which is a federal zone that would give them a bigger tax break, but it's not in an opportunity zone, so that one did not apply. Part of the statute says you have to hold a public hearing, and that is what we're doing tonight. And then the next step would be a vote for a declaration of whether you're willing to enter into an agreement or not. You do not have an agreement today yet. After you vote yes or no that you're willing or not to consider entering into it, it's kind of a conditional willingness because you haven't seen an agreement yet. Then you would get another opportunity to vote yes or no on the actual agreement. And after the vote tonight, if you vote yes, then the governor will initiate the process to start working on the agreement.
I do have a question in regards to the agreement. It has another process where we could reverse it if we're not.
Yes, you're just saying you're willing to consider an agreement conditionally because you haven't seen it, right? So you can vote yes or no tonight, and if you say no, then it stops. There would be no limitation agreement at all if you say no tonight. If you say yes tonight, then the next step would be for the governor to initiate the drafting of an agreement and contacting the lawyers that we hired on behalf of you guys to work on this. Who've worked on a couple of these already. And the lawyers would work back and forth in conjunction with you on the terms of that agreement. It's a pretty standard agreement, so there's not a lot of things to put in there. They have
Is there a hold harmless?
There's no hold harmless payments. We don't, because we didn't see, our financial analysis doesn't show that you would be harmed. There is some special language in there regarding terminations of an agreement, what happens in that case, and those are things that there's only one agreement that's actually been signed in the whole state. There's possibly a second one that's close to being signed, but that's it. So you're probably would be the third or fourth one by the time we get to it.
And going back to that analysis, the 20-year versus the 10 of the term agreements, you're saying that we would end up benefiting.
The comptroller had to decide if you're giving up the taxes that, M&O taxes, your tax savings to the company, do other taxes compensate for that, right? So it's state and local tax revenue, so it's state revenue and other things like sales tax and things like that. They say, is it generating enough over 20 years that would be more than what you're giving up? And so that's a test that the comptroller does before they would recommend the project.
Okay. So right now this is just, what is it?
A declaration of willingness.
Right now it's just a public hearing, so if there's any members of the public, I'll let the board members go first if there's any questions. Ms. Montgomery?
So from what I understand, it's like we're saying, yeah, build your company here, and the incentives is that you will not pay M&O taxes.
You would pay less M&O taxes.
Okay, limited amount.
Yes.
For 10 years.
Yes.
And so the district, from what I'm reading on page 16, the additional income generated through the M&O from the project increases the overall proportion of the school budget.
Yes.
However, decreases state aid.
Yes. That's the equalized wealth system that, you're given a set amount per kid, and if you get more taxes, you get less state aid. If you have less taxes, you get more state aid, but you're still held at a constant level unless you get more kids or the legislature allocates more money per kid. And they haven't done that in a couple of sessions.
So my concern is for years they have not, like you said, they have not increased what we get per students. And the allotment, thank you. And so if it's going to decrease it.
It's not.
Your overall revenue won't change, it's just what source of the money. is used to fund the allotment for your kids and the cost. But your total revenue is not gonna change, it's just gonna shift between state and local. It's kinda like as you grow in property value now and get more taxes, it would be offset with loss of state aid.
Yeah, but I'm concerned with the state.
Yes.
I'm concerned with the
Yes.
state,
Yes.
because we're not getting enough to begin with. I mean, it hasn't changed in years, it has not increased in years. We're getting the same amount per kid, and so I think that's hurting us.
Yes, every district I've talked to this year has said we're adopting a deficit budget. Everybody's hoping with, kind of crossing their fingers and holding their breath about the session when it starts in January. I don't have a good sense of what they're gonna do. Everybody I've talked to, some people may have a better sense than I do. But if you say yes tonight, that you're conditionally willing, you still have an opportunity at the end when the draft agreement is ready to be voted on to say yes or no at that point. So you have a couple of opportunities. You're not definitely granting this tonight. You're just conditionally willing to continue the discussion and see what an agreement looks like.
So do we have to make a motion for the next board meeting?
So this is a public hearing, we need to finish this. The next item on the agenda would be to approve the conditional application.
Is there any other board members? No? And if you would like, we did get an update at the last meeting. If you would, we could probably get administration, if you have any follow-up questions that you might need, with Mo Casey, and we also have you on that as well.
Yes.
So if there's none from the board, then I'll go to you. Go ahead, Mr. Quinn.
I don't know if anybody else wants to speak, but I would like to speak, Mr. President. Thank you, Honorable Board. Let me tell you, it's not a matter of an issue. It raises the value of property in the district. And because of that, you don't get docked automatically what revenue the district gets. The problem, if you don't approve this and it just has to go through, and just for y'all's knowledge, the county yesterday approved this incentive for this company. The problem, if y'all don't approve it, we may lose this entity completely, and then we're going back the other way. And it would hurt the village of Benton tragically. That is their number one employer and their number one taxpayer. And so this is going to increase the value of the investment of the property, so the taxes are gonna go up. You're giving them an incentive out of that increase that's coming up. You're giving them an incentive to make that investment. It's the basics of it. The county's already approved it. They're in the process, the company is in the process of doing all the background work to get this deal done. But I think this is a benefit to the district, a benefit to the village of Linton. And if all the taxing entities are involved in this, do this, and the company ends up doing the project, I think it bodes well for the community that we have an increase in commercial property. That's exactly what we're trying to do in this county, is to raise the value of commercial property so that commercial property pays more than residential properties. That's the idea behind giving incentives to corporations, to companies that want to come in and invest in a community. San Antonio has that, Dallas has that, we do not. We're opposite. 60% of our people, of our taxes are paid by resident homeowners. This is one of those steps that we want to take to increase commercial value of taxable property in our county. Dallas, same way. Most of their taxes come from commercial properties. So does San Antonio. They didn't used to in the past. We are trying to, the city and the county are trying to make efforts to make sure that we have that change in that kind of tax-paying power by commercial property. So just letting you know that the county has already approved this, and in other words, we approved the same motion that you're doing now. It's a little different for us than for the county, than for the district, but it's basically that you're on board to try and give this incentive once all the other things get done. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez?
So President, Board of Trustees, the Superintendent, my name is Victor Martinez. Taxing is great. I'm glad that they're bringing some taxes. I'm glad that it's a big project. We're talking about $200 and some million, $100 million of money being invested. But the reality is their money's not everything. And I just heard Mr. Coronado make a very good presentation about taxes. The reality of things, guys, is that we're dealing with a facility that at night releases all this power. Okay? And if you drive through I-10, you'll see this power. I live in Westwood. That's where I grew up. The highest percentage of cancer in that area is incredible, guys. That's just the way it is. Why are we looking for a facility like this? Just so that you can bring more taxes to our community? Is that what we need? Well, I'm interested in bringing an Amazon facility instead of Forestfield. Once again, we closed Derbyshire many years ago, but that was great. We closed Asarco. Guess why? There's a reason for it. Now we have this facility right next to Westway. Why is it that this was not the people from Westway or Benton were invited? That's what I'd like to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments?
May I respond to that?
Go ahead, Mr. Fine.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez, but one of the things that this company is also proposing with that investment is, there's two things that they're considering, that investment, why they're considering this. One, they need to compete with other companies, and the way to do that is modernize. And one of the things they're doing with modernizing this facility is they're investing in more environmentally sound equipment and process. So it is going to be an improvement in the terms of what it is now. So either we vote for this and we get an investment and improved environmental practices at this facility, or we lose it. And then we have something that's vacant and it's an eyesore and we lose taxes. I mean, that's basically the decision that you all have to make. Just letting you know, several of the other taxing entities have already.
If I might, because there was something, there is also part of the agreement, not us, but could ask or possibly to make sure that they beautify that area. Do you remember that conversation?
Well, you can ask in the final agreement, you
Well,
can
we
ask
can't,
if
but
they,
the county could.
yeah, you can ask if they put in parks and different things, but that's.
Or to beautify that same, you know, that, the frontage, but go ahead, Ms. Marlena, sorry.
My question was, is this gonna be located off of I-10 where the current one is?
It's gonna be on the current property, 8001 Border Still Road.
Which is off of I-10, right?
On their
Right.
Yes.
existing property.
Yes, okay.
Part of the application was that they had to have viable other locations, other states that they could go to, and they had to prove that they had offers and locations. And so, if you don't vote that you're conditionally willing to enter into an agreement, they probably would not still here at all. And they were gonna create 75 jobs and those are new jobs, those are not transfer jobs, those are brand new jobs with the average wage of the 76,534. So.
And not only that, a large percentage of our community does.
And then there's also a possibility for internships or things for your kids, you know. And after an agreement is signed, you can, you know, there would be just any other local partner, right, after you do an agreement.
Okay. I think with that, go ahead.
So I think Mr. Martinez brings up a great point in regard to the pollution and the different issues that we face with Benton still being there. I know that we had discussed some of the modernizing techniques that Mr. Sergio Ornato, also mentioned. Would those help with some of those environmental issues that we're struggling with, so that some of those concerns, do you know,
I
or is that
don't
something
know
that
about the
we could?
manufacturing process. I don't know.
Oh, Mr. Rico might be able to.
Maybe, because I know y'all did a visit, they did a site visit.
Okay, perfect, yeah, because that's an important topic to consider. Yeah.
Members of the board, so we did tour the facility. The facility, as we were told, was acquired by a Japanese conglomerate a few years back. They operate the same types of plants in Japan and are heralded for their commitment to battle pollution, and that they showed us what that facility would look like. It's an entirely robotic system that would be enclosed, that would reduce the pollutants in the air, that would expand within that same facility. To them, they see that same commitment to the community and to the environment. So I guess that's why our discussions were, if we cannot do that here, if we cannot modernize that here, we will have to close this because they know what's going on with it and move elsewhere, right? So that is their commitment, and we were able to see, yes, and the footprint of the facility would be, if I remember correctly, about a third of the size because it doesn't require the same process that it's undergoing right now.
Thank you.
Any other, Ms. Moore?
That brings a question. Robotic system that they're claiming that they're going to have, what was it? 75 more jobs?
Yeah.
So when I think robotic replacing the human person.
So I asked the same question. My question, Ms. Marmolado, was more because when we visited, there was people that had been there for 20 years. And so I specifically remember saying, well, how are you going to train him to be a robotic operator? And they talked to us about their education facilities and how that would work. So it is robotics inside where the more dangerous part of the system is going on. Currently, it's liquid fire going through those things, right? And you got humans on top of it fixing it. So it'll be an enclosed system where the robotic operator will be the human on the outside, preventing those dangerous situations. My concern was, you're bringing 75 new ones, but what about those hundreds that are there? So their commitment is that those hundreds will be retrained to operate those systems, and the 75 will be.
I also have another question.
Fine.
Sorry, this is kind of away from the environmental topic, but you stated earlier that this agreement would detract from the state fund that we get, but you also said that would be like balanced back out by the raising of taxes. I'm just a little bit confused how that would work because you also said that it hasn't been appraised yet. So how are we sure that the taxes will balance out?
So a company had to submit what they think the taxable value would be, and we use those estimates to run on your school finance. We have a school finance model that goes to 2052. And that's just how the system works. We did it with 313 projects. They operated it a little differently, so we can't really compare to that. But with the current year values, with funding for things like that, we could estimate. If the system stays exactly like it is today, the values, whether or not they're 159 million or 250 million, you would collect taxes on 50% of it, M&O, but the system just is designed to keep everything level, and so you get taxes on it, but you would lose the state aid and stay about neutral. That's just how the system works. That's what the legislature designed it.
And has it been, like you said that you had done this with like signing to one other project in Texas, has that also, that prediction like balanced out? Has it been successful?
Well, none of them have been built yet. There's only been 3 before y'all. We worked on one of them, and this is the second one. Well, we worked on 3. It'll be 3. So the analysis on all of them that we have done is the same, that everybody's held just flat, right? If you're a wealthy district, there's golden pennies in tier 2, which you get no recapture on, so you get a small benefit. I mean, I think actually for you guys, the estimate was like $1,000 a year plus, which to me is basically flat. Right? And so that's for everybody. It's been the same analysis, and it's all come out about the same flat. But that's because we hold everything constant. We don't grow values. We don't grow kids. Because we don't know what life's going to be in 10 or 15 years. So we just can only go by what we know today. That's how we do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One more comment from my end. I think that since they're presenting for the very first time, let's see what they have to bring. I like to know where the other facilities are, what the studies have been made, how they benefited, and how are we going to benefit in the long run. I think the simple fact that Westway is right there. I'm going to tell you again, just drive at 1 o'clock in the morning. You smell it. You feel it. My dad died of cancer, guys, and he worked in that facility. And I know a lot of people that have died of cancer that live in Westwood. So I like to see what they have to offer, and there's gotta be a reason why the state is getting involved in this and why they want to improve it. There's gotta be a reason for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions, comments? If not, can I get a motion?
There's not a motion, you need to close the public
Sorry,
hearing.
yeah, I forgot, we're in the public. At this time, we'll close. I don't need a motion for that, right? We'll close public forum and that will take us to the next item.
So just one quick comment that the process that the reason we're coming to you tonight to decide if you determine if you're willing or not, conditionally willing, is because the law stated that after the comptroller issued their positive recommendation, which they did October 23rd, you had 30 days to hold this vote. And that 30 days would be like Saturday. And so, I don't really know, we've never had anybody go past 30 days, so I'm not sure exactly what we would need to do if you want to postpone. I don't think we would be able to postpone it, because we have to, it's by in statute that you have to do this vote 30 days. So, but again, it's just, saying you're conditionally willing because you haven't seen an agreement yet. And you will still get to see an agreement and to have all those discussions and then get to have a final yes or no vote on the agreement in the end. And that could take several months. It's going to probably be sometime next year, I think, before we have an actual agreement to bring back to you to vote on.
Okay, plenty of time. With that, is there a motion to?
We haven't called the next item, 5B.
Oh.
Item 5B. Consider application of Vincent Steel LLC, controller application number J0004 for tax incentive agreement and board declaration of conditional intent pursuant to Government Code 403.611B. Presenter, Mokasey.
Okay, same thing. There's a letter that the superintendent would sign that has to be submitted to the comptroller within 7 days of your vote. And it basically just lists the comptroller accepted, determined complete on October 3rd, issued a recommendation on October 23rd, and then basically declaring your willingness to consider entering into it.
Just consider.
Just consider it. It's a declaration of willingness to enter into an agreement in the future at some point, and then you still get a yes or no vote in the future. So it's just a letter that you have to. So you have to say yes or no, you're willing or not to do that, and then the superintendent would sign it.
I motion to agree to consider the application of Vincent Steel LLC.
There's a motion, is there a second?
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Adrian, there's no discussion. Adrian, can you pull the board?
Can I ask a question? From legal? Can I choose to abstain since I didn't have access to the packet and I would like to speak to the people in Benton and Westway before making, a final determination?
Yeah, this isn't, just so we're clear, this is not a final determination on the application. It's just that you're willing to consider it going forward, but you are free to abstain. Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Rodriguez, who's second?
Ms. Zuniga.
Zuniga.
Thank you. Ms. Barnes.
Yes.
Ms. Borrego.
Yes.
Ms. Maldonado.
Yes.
Ms. Ortega.
Abstain.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Zuniga.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I'll take us to the next item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6, consent agenda voting.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Before we did have, item 6A4, the approval of the purchase of data electric buses using the EPA grant. As part of this submit questions, and there were a lot of questions. I just thought we just pull it all together, and then that way it would be talked out.
Well, let's go through this process. Ms. Barnes, would you like to pull it?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay. And we'll pull that item. Is there?
What? Item 6. 4.
is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of state prop?
I move that we, approve the consent agenda with the option, with the exception of 6A4.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. If there's no discussion, Adrian, you pull the board.
Yes, sir. Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Borrego?
Yes.
Ms. Maldonado?
Yes.
Ms. Ortega?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Zuniga?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, that will take us to the next item.
Item 6.4, approval of the purchase of 8 electric buses using the EPA grant to cover a portion of the EV electric vehicle fleet cost. Ms. Senator Dr. Estarrito.
Good evening, members of the board. Before you, you have the approval of purchasing 8 electric school buses, and Highland was the company that would be providing that services here as well. And I know there was some questions regarding the item.
Okay, so some of my questions had to do with the agreement, I guess some of the specifics. One of the things, the agreement itself did not specify that Highland would be supplying 6 of the buses for salvage, and I know Dr. Gallagher said that was changed. Would we be able to get an updated version of that in our Thursday packet?
Yes, that was an error on my part. I
That's
apologize.
okay.
We can definitely accommodate that.
Thank you. So some of my other questions had to do, and I will say thank you. Dr. Galaviz answered a lot of my questions, if not all of them, but I think it's important that we as a board discuss all of these so that it's clear for everybody. Some of the things that stood out to me were the excess mileage fee and time of use fees. So I was thinking of things like if we're taking field trips and we're, going on extended to the zoo, that's going to take more miles than, of course, our normal travels here. So my understanding was if that is reported within 48 hours of that, then those would be included in those fees, correct?
Yes, correct. And to elaborate, if it's helpful, those are permitted. We have some wiggle room in the mileage to allow for those extra excursions. We could also accommodate a different review period if you wanted to review one of those vehicles over 2 years rather than 1 to accommodate that mileage. But we did base off routes with some wiggle room.
Perfect. That was actually one of my questions. Did we allow for some of that wiggle room in there? One of the questions that I asked was the lifespan of a typical bus, and I was told usually a typical diesel bus is between 12 and 15 years.
Correct.
At that point, I'm assuming transmission issues, engine issues that we have to look at, correct?
Correct. And what we started to look at, Ms. Barnes, is we have buses in circulation that are at 12 or passing 12, and the bill to fix those has been such that we have just we didn't just put them off to the side.
Right.
We're utilizing them for spare parts and for other things because it's more costly to fix them.
Yeah, because based off the numbers I received, it looks like we have about 8 buses, correct, that are at or above that amount. Okay, so that is very helpful, but then that led me to another question in regards to the electric buses. I know last time we talked specifically about the battery, but the battery life would be approximately, you guys would cover it for 10 years, but it's about 8 to 10. But what about after that point? If we have to replace those batteries, what is the cost for something like that to continue to use those buses?
Yes, we're limited to 10 in Texas.
Okay.
Just by law. We would love to extend the agreement beyond that point and extend out the warranty if that's what the district would like at that point. If you were to choose not to do that and decide to replace the battery yourself, I can't really speak that far out in advance, but in a current state, it would be a very hefty cost. I'd say probably $50,000 to $100,000. It's in a current state.
Okay.
And I guess Ms. Barnes, if I can elaborate on that point too, is we haven't really replaced buses since 2019 because after 2020 we did not include that line item in the budget. So in transparency's sake, we would have to include the line item in the budget of $150,000, which is what we were doing before per bus.
This allows us an opportunity to refresh 8 of those buses. Right now, the average cost of a bus, and we were discussing this earlier, that we got from our transportation director is about 185 to 200,000. So even if we were provided the 150,000, which we would need for this to work, we would need $150,000 as a line item that we would have for bus replacements, as we had before.
Per bus?
No, per year. So, whatever it used to cost about 140 to replace. So in the budget, every year we had 150 just to replace one at a time. That is no longer the reality. So to refresh those 8 buses that Ms. Barnes mentioned were past the 12 years, it would be this. By all intents and purposes, the way we are looking at this is just like a car lease. So what happens at the end of your car lease, you can buy it if you wish to still invest in it, or you can turn it in and get new ones, which is what we are understanding here. Because again, after 12 years in a bus, we do that anyway, right? We then surplus them and get pennies on the dollar for it, because I mean the school bus loses its value.
Thank you, and that actually segues into my next question. So at the end of the lease period, I know we said we don't like that word, but just to make it simple, at the end of that period, the 10-year period, if we choose to continue to use your company, we would be able to then look at switching those buses that we've been using for 10 years out for new electric buses at whatever I'm assuming, the market rate at that point.
Yeah, so we could take into consideration fair market value. Depending on what the scenario is at that point, we could help procure brand new buses, or we could look at additional grant funding to secure for the district. It would be an open discussion and partnership between us and y'all.
Right, because that's one of my concerns is the money that we're looking at of $18,200 per bus right now doesn't sound like a lot, but if we get to the end of that 10-year period, those buses aren't ours, and what grants are going to be available to us then, because then we're talking about a huge chunk of money at one time that we may not have. So that's my biggest concern, honestly, with this. Let's see. Yes, go ahead, because I'm
in regards to that, because I think one is, so the lease, how much are we spending on gas?
The total fuel for the entire fleet of 29 Usuarias is $255,000 or so. And the $150,000 would include also the electricity charge. So the $150 is a flat fee for the next 10 years to operate.
And there's still a possibility, right? You went on a conservative model to actually hopefully bring that down even more. If we could partner up with El Paso Electric and others.
Yes, correct. And then Ms. Barnes, just to address that concern as well, I know that's a very real one.
Yes.
Part of the inclination is to help with the scrap requirement from the EPA is to provide 6 of those 8. And so you actually are not directly losing those vehicles, and you can stagger them however the district sees best appropriate.
And there's I'm sure technology in 10 years is going to be so more advanced. Hopefully cheaper than that. Any other questions?
I have a question. What happens if Highland goes area and you lose your business? What happens to the buses then, and then where are we as far as the district?
Yeah, we operate them under individual agreements with each district, and so another financing party could come in and take over the operation for the district, for those buses specifically.
Okay, again, since I'm new and we did not get the agenda, so I'm understanding that we're looking at purchasing 8 electric buses. What was the total cost? You said $18,200 per bus?
It's yes, that was I can pull it back. I can tell you it's $150,000 a year for the next 10 years. A little bit under, just not another, but we would be committed to the next.
Right, it's a lease, so $150,000 per year for 10 years?
Correct.
There is a grant that we got from the federal government to help pay for the buses. If not, it would have been.
Okay.
If the grant wouldn't have come through, how much was that?
I don't think I'd be talking to you here today if the grant didn't come through.
So my question then to you, sir, is during these 10 years, the buses have a warranty?
Yes, under the Highland model, we actually provide fueling, so all the energy, and then the maintenance and the maintenance reimbursement back to the district. So any parts and labor that the district performs that the bus needs, we reimburse back monthly to your district. So it's fully covered for the extended duration of the contract.
So,
Including, sorry, go ahead.
if for some reason one of the batteries goes out within those 10 years, you will replace it.
Correct, yes, we
Free of
provide
charge.
the extended warranty.
How much is the grant? It was 8 million?
You received, from the round 2 grant, it was $395,000 per bus, times 4 buses. I'm sorry, I don't have the figure directly in front of me. And then on the round 3 grant, you have up to 25 buses. We're only discussing 4 of those, at $345,000 per bus.
So, Dr. Rico, so by replacing the 8 traditional, let's say, what is the total amount of buses that we have? 29, you said?
So we have 29 in circulation, and we currently do not have any spares. Ideally, we have 2 or 3 spares, but right now, just because of the age of them, there are no spares.
So, out of those 29, included in those would be the 8 electrical.
Correct, and we would have to let go of 2 of them to be destroyed, right, for
2 of the traditional.
2 of the traditional. So the other 6 we would keep, which means we would then have the choice either selling them or keeping 1 or 2 for spares.
And then, is the goal to replace all 29 with electrical?
I think that's looking into the future a little bit. We don't know because this is the first time that we see this, and I know our region districts are starting to do it as well, Ms. Morales, but the reality is that we will not be able to replace those 29 like we would do so, right? So the majority of the districts around us include items in their bonds, whether it's $1 million or $2 million, that allows them to keep up with their fleets. We didn't choose to this particular bond because of the issue of trust, right? So we wanted to trim as much as we could, but obviously in the future, whether it be electrical, hybrid, natural gas, or diesel, we would have to include some of those in there as well.
So one of my questions was about the required reporting, since we're dealing with a grant at this point. So I know some of the reporting was mentioned that it would be done by you, but the way that the contract read, it sounded like some of the reporting was going to be done by us in County Deal. Do we have a specific person who's going to be in charge of that reporting, or do they report to you and then you report?
Yes, they will work directly with the district to ensure that reporting is compliant, and especially in this case when it's awarded to Highland, Fork, and Geo. We are responsible for that funding as well, and we don't want to be put at risk of recapture. So we do have a personnel on the ground to help make sure that's accurate and up to date. We supply that back to the EPA.
Perfect. And then one of my questions was in regards to the insurance costs, and I know that it basically said, you know, those will vary based on region and so on and so forth, but have you seen a substantial insurance cost increase for the districts that are already switching to electric buses?
Yeah, for the projects we run, we have not. We have a pretty extensive, comprehensive insurance. We just have a lot of vehicles under contract. So for us specifically, no, but I will include that disclaimer that it does vary by region.
Okay. And then I think my last question is about the actual removal. If we decided not to continue at the end of the agreement, it says that would be covered by us. That cost would be covered by County Deal to remove those. Am I understanding that correct?
The language, as I understand, states that if we get to the end and you do not want to continue the agreement further, we will come remove that equipment, with the exception of if Canatio is in default, and then it would be on the district to remove.
Okay.
But
so as long as we're not in default, we won't be charged for the removal of those.
Correct. Yeah, we'll come.
Sorry for all the questions.
No, thank you. It's a long agreement. We want to make sure it's a partnership, so I appreciate it.
I've read all of it, so thank you. It's very thorough. And my only other question actually goes back to the conversation last time. You had mentioned grade level lessons that, and I had asked whether or not those lessons would align with our TEKS for our students. Did you happen to get any information on that for me?
I'm sorry, Ms. Barnes, I did not, but I can.
Sorry, I'm a teacher, so.
I can ensure if it's something we promise, it will comply.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
So one more question too. So just so I understand, we can either choose to go with the 8 electric buses for $150 a year, Or we can choose to buy buses like we were per line on the budget, and we can buy a bus every year from now on for like $180,000.
That's correct. So right now, and I pulled up the contract, it's $145,600. I think we're hurting in regards to that replacement schedule because we haven't allotted, sorry, the $150,000 even yearly since those because of the budget deficits, right? So it's also the commitment that the board would have of adding back that line of $150,000. But yes, we could replace that.
And Mr. Taylor, if I may, congratulations on your new position. And to clarify, since we have discussed it with this board as well, that I think our contract does include the fueling and the maintenance. So when we talk about replacing a diesel bus, just want to make sure that we take into consideration this total cost of ownership, where you would then need to again factor in the price of diesel and maintaining that bus over that span of time.
President, so for the cost of one bus that we could get if we put a line item, because of the grant, we're gonna get eight electric buses.
That's correct, yes. The grant is.
Because we received the grant.
And it's
$2,960,000 was the grant.
And it's a lot different where it's a wraparound service, so we're not, I think you all have to do it separate, right? Like you have to go here, it's.
What are you talking about? I'm Canutillo.
Oh, now you're kind of.
I told you. I don't know who you're talking about.
I think, it's a better way because maintenance, we're not gonna have to hire more maintenance workers, we're not gonna have to hire, the electric,
Mechanics.
yeah, well, it's all estimated in the cost versus, I'm sure there's gonna be inflationary costs in gas. And I'm sure you put that into this factor, but let's say if it goes to $300,000-400,000 for gas, it's paying within that $18,000 that we're locked in.
Even though you don't like the term, it's like a lease, basically.
Yeah.
So in 10 years, we no longer own the bus.
We could purchase them at the end of the life cycle, right? There's a stipulation in the contract.
Yeah, but we get to use them, and it's 8 of them. Yeah, makes sense.
But the battery costs $50,000 to replace.
It's within the.
But they replace it.
But if it happens after the 10 years,
Yeah.
then they don't.
Yeah.
If we did not continue further, correct. And that would be at that point, if you wanted to continue with electrification, I think our idea is de-risk this process entirely and make sure there's no upfront payment from the district.
The question that I have, is it okay this one?
Yeah.
The fact that the reason we're sort of crunched into the amount, and I guess the way administration said, okay, if we purchase one bus versus 8, how in the future are we able to, because we have up to 20, right? 29. Up to 29 buses. Maybe in a couple months after the legislators in session, and depending on what bills come through, I mean, we could probably double that fleet with 300. So that's just, is that still an option?
What I will know is we would like to do what's best for the district. You have the option of 29 vehicles that have been approved under EPA funding. With that being said, that largest subset, so this remaining 21 from round 3, we have filed an extension request on behalf of the district for that funding to be considered at a later date. As it stands now, we need to draw down funds before November 29th. We put a 3-month extension request in. We will know on the 22nd if it's approved and to what capacity. So you do, it's just not it's not an endless timeline, and we're willing to work with you and just want to be mindful of what's best for you all.
And I just wanted to, in case that option comes about, if we get more funding, you could double the fleet and still under, $300K a year versus, we're getting 16 buses and, you could still, there's also a possibility in the future too, we could buy both buses, we could convert to, you might have to go back to propane or, that's all possibility, but the grant allows us to really provide a huge boost to our infrastructure and our fleet because over the years we've just not put that money set aside because of our budget situation. So we have how many? if you wanna elaborate on that.
On the buses, yeah, we have buses that are from 2011, right? So you figure if it's a 12-year life, you probably have heard from your community, you know, we were the bad guys this summer because the buses were hot, because the buses didn't have proper safety harnesses. Well, a lot of those come with older buses, right? And we try our best. We have the greatest mechanic in the county for sure, and I don't just say that because we work together, right? He's amazing. That team does wonders with what they got. The fleet is starting to show its age. In regards to the conversation, I know Mr. Ricotta and as we spoke today, and we anticipate 45-day extension maybe, because that's kind of what's going on. And we did also speak with Congresswoman Escobar, who was not very positive in the sense saying that the funding would continue in subsequent years. So to her, she said, look, you were allotted $11 million to purchase buses. If you choose to do that, this is probably the opportune time, because they didn't think that the IRA funding and everything that was on there would continue, simply because we're in a different part after COVID, right?
So I don't know if you mentioned this, but I'm thinking, does the district have to build or purchase or whatever a charging station, or how does that work?
We provide that as well.
You provide that,
Yeah.
and it's going to be located at the bus barn?
Correct. And it also includes the electricity, so we wouldn't pay the electricity to charge.
Okay, so it includes the charging station, and then the electricity to charge the buses is included in that?
Correct. And those have pretty short shelf life, so we extend the warranty on the charging stations as well.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the purchase of the 8 electric buses using the EPA grant to cover a portion of the EV fleet cost.
Is there a second? There's a motion by
I would like to second it, but I would like something stated on the record. I would like for administration during this process, as we're looking at it, to be considering what the cost of those electric buses will be to replace at the end, if we choose to take them and not continue on, because those grants may not be available. So we need to make sure we're not putting ourselves in 10 years in a dire situation where we have no buses and no funds to pay for new ones, diesel or otherwise.
Is there a possibility, looking at, if it's okay with you all within that motion, to see how we could cap that and not put it at cap it at whatever the market projected
At the
less.
fair market value?
Yeah.
I'd have to connect directly with our legal team. We could likely implement something if that's the request. It would just, we need to make sure the project is financially viable. So.
Well, let's look into it and then we could discuss it. But with that, that's fine. Is that okay? Okay. You're okay on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor and second it. There's no more discussion. Adrian, can you pull the board?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Borrego?
Yes.
Ms. Maldonado?
Yes.
Ms. Ortega?
No.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. O'Neill?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, board. That will take us to the next item.
Item number 7, executive session. To consult with attorney under sections 551.671, 551.002, and 551.004 of the Texas Government Code. 7A, discussion regarding the status and entry a ground lease with El Paso Community College for premises at its EPCC's Northwest Campus for operation of the Campillo Early College High School, formerly known as Northwest Early College High School. Time is 8:20 p.m. EPCC's Northwest Campus for operations of the Campillo Early College High School, formerly known as the Northwest Early College High School. Presenter Steve Blanco.
Thank you, Board President Rodriguez, members of the board, Dr. Elvis. First, the agenda item had an indication that there may be a name change for the Early College High School. There will not be. Second, I gave you an update on the current status of the lease negotiations for the construction of the new facility there at the Early College High School. Those discussions are still underway, and we only have a draft form of the lease. We'll be bringing back to you a more finished version of that lease once the community college and their attorneys have an opportunity to comment on it, which they have not yet. So at a future meeting, we'll be bringing it back to you. At this time, we don't need any action from the board.
Okay, at this time there'll be no action unless somebody wants to make a motion.
I just have a quick question. Is there a time frame?
Not a deadline, but, we do have a interlocal agreement that will be expiring, and I think it sounds like
But they're looking to bring that up in December.
so the community college wants it done in December, so we'll have it to them, they'll look at it and they'll bring it back to us.
Okay. Any other questions? No, hearing none, that will take us to the next item.
Item number